Turn it down just a bit. Yeah, I have a couple of announcements to make. First of all, this next Saturday is Spruce Up Day. And so come dressed in your work clothes and come fix and clean and take care of our campus and make it beautiful again. We'd love to have you here. That'll start early in the morning whenever somebody gets here. I think first people get here about 7 o'clock and just work until the last one drops. All right? Over in Ravenscroft, we have a brand new display of art. The artist's name is Victoria Wills. We'd love to have you be part of that. Last little announcement thing is about this woman right here. Wendy Kiter has a certificate and says she's fulfilled the necessary requirements and is hereby recognized as a certified lay servant in the United Methodist Church. Wendy, you're a lay speaker.
Okay, first of all, this was on preaching. So the next step to my becoming a lay speaker will be to inflict all of you with a sermon, which will have to be videoed. Something to look forward to. And the other thing is, does it surprise you at all that the little sermon I gave was much different than the rest of them?
How many are going to be affected by her preaching at one point or another? That's good. A year and a half ago, Joni and I went down to Patagonia because we had a friend of ours who started out as the pastor then. And, you know, as happens in the United Methodist Church, it was right around the turn of July. And so we went down there for the 4th of July. And surprise, in Patagonia, they have a parade on the 4th of July. But it's a very interesting and unusual parade. What they do is they have all the floats that go by, and the band and the Girl Scouts and all of those things. But most of those folks are carrying water balloons. And they throw them at the crowd. And most of the crowd is holding water balloons, and they throw them at the participants. And they try to like lob them inside the fire truck. And things like that. And it becomes this grand adventure in being part of the parade. And the temptation always with parades is to sit there and say, oh, that's really nice, and just watch it go by. But a real parade invites you to become part of it. I learned that when I was an elementary school teacher at William C. Jack Elementary up in Glendale. Joni and I worked there together. And our principal, Debbie Bailey, would walk into the classroom on Halloween, and she would ooh and ah at all the costumes, and then she would invite that first group to come up and follow her. And that classroom would go into the next classroom. And they would parade through that classroom, and all the kids would clap about the parade going by, and then they would join the parade. And those 2 classrooms would go into the 3rd classroom, then on to the 4th and the 5th, and they'd go through the 1st grade, and the 2nd grade, and the 3rd grade, and the kindergarten. And everyone would join the parade. And then we'd get back to the 1st classroom, and that classroom would sit down, and everyone would come parading through, and everyone got to be both a participant and a spectator. And that's kind of the way life works, isn't it? You don't get to just sit, but you don't get to just participate. You have to do both. And it's a grand and an exciting celebration. And our job in all of that was to invite each person to be part of that celebration. You know, parades can be one of the easiest things to organize. Somebody called it organized chaos, which is often true. And why? Because you can't just stand at the beginning and organize everyone and expect it to be the same after it goes past that start. Right? Because it takes a couple, 3 steps, and all of a sudden, those people have to figure out what to do. And all the organizing that happened there may and may not work. Right? Because what it does is it disseminates the control, the organization, to a whole lot of different folks. And that little Girl Scout troop, they got to figure out how to control themselves, how to organize themselves through that whole parade, right? And so does every single piece of the parade. And everyone who joins in has to figure out how do they fit in with this larger thing. And you can't quite control all of that, can you? So it can be maddening. There's so many things that can go wrong, and yet there's so many things that can go right, because we have to learn to trust each other and step beyond. Jan Richardson wrote a book called Cure for Sorrow, And it starts off with these words. These are the first words in the book. It did not go as we anticipated. Have you had that happen in your life? It did not go as anticipated. In Spain, about 100 years ago, a group of people got on a bus. Maybe not quite 100 years ago, but about 60 maybe. They got on a bus on a pilgrimage, going to a holy space. But the bus broke down halfway between here and there. They ended up in a space that they didn't expect to be in at all. There was nothing around them but flowers and sky and chickens. But they were on pilgrimage to find God. And they realized they didn't have to go to find God, that they could find God right there. And they wrote a song about that moment, and it goes something like this. De colores se visten los campos en la primavera, which means that the colors of this field all around you, and colors of the rainbow, and the colors of the sky, and all those colors sing God's presence right here in this place. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Because of those many colors, the love of those many colors, I like this place. And they discovered that that parade was happening not when they got there, but in the midst of it. Isn't that a great song? I used to sing that with my first graders, and I loved to be able to join that parade, as kids usually do. Our problem is that it's not always simple, is it? Not all of our problems are just the easy bus breaks down, which doesn't seem really simple in that moment, but there's much harder difficulties, aren't there? Our scripture today talks about some of those things when it says that when you are poor, blessed are you. And it doesn't feel like in the midst of that poverty that you are blessed, does it? Doesn't feel like in the midst of loss or difficulties or challenge that you have blessings coming your way. But in God's world, that's true. But that's easier to believe when it's relatively simple, not deep moments of, I don't know where God could possibly be. I don't know where truth or life or meaning could possibly be. But we have to carry into it the words of our contemporary reading. Did you hear that? When our life is shorter than flowers, we have to decide to dance, to dress in colors, to teach our children to see the beauty. And that has to be a choice that we make. In the midst of whatever goes wrong, whether it's a bus breaking down or one of those deeper things, we have to choose to see blessings. Jan Richardson, that lady who said it did not go as anticipated, the subtitle of her book is A Book of Blessings. And she wrote that book, The Cure for Sorrows, because her husband died. As she tried to find meaning in that loss, she tried to figure out what next. She wrote that book. And she said, one of the things I quickly learned after Gary died is that death has a way of tearing open our hearts toward eternity. In the rending that came with Gary's death, I continued to write blessings. As everything about my life changed, I wrote blessings still. Today is Day of the Dead, when we celebrate not so much that our people died, but they continue to live in us. That in the midst of what seems like just a loss, that there's something more that's at play. That somehow there's a very real continuation of their life, not just some rosy morning someday, not just when we get to the end of the pilgrimage, but right now, that they are alive and that they are calling us into that life. All of us carry songs that those who went before us taught us. All of us carry ways of being that someone else placed into our hearts and into our lives. And it's because they invited us to join the parade, didn't they? They said, here's something to do, here's something to be. Come and be it with me. Come be part of this organized chaos we call life. Out of death, the compost of life, said our call to awareness. Out of death, new life arrives. Ever greater richness. See, their lives gave us the ground in which we are able to flourish and become something more than we have ever been. Their voice, the way they live, give us the opportunity to come and be something today. The 50 years that this church has been around and the lives that cultivated that time allow us to now spring into new life. What is it that you're going to be because of the parade that they've sent into your life? There's a lot of opportunities. This week I went to several different places where people are saying, how St. Francis is going to be involved in this. For example, in 2 weeks, right here in St. Francis, there's going to be a PCIC delegate assembly. PCIC has been a parade that St. Francis has been involved in for a long time. How are we going to continue that involvement? How do we let Pima County Interfaith continue to call a parade into our hearts? And how do we use that parade to call something into our community to become? We can volunteer for Tijan. We can volunteer for Casa Maria. Yesterday we had people feeding at Casa Maria, and every 4 weeks we do that. We've done it for years. Can you be there? Is that the parade that God is calling into your life? The End Project is there waiting for volunteers. We have people on the board there who are saying, will you be part of that? On December 13th, I've been telling you about JFON for a year, for quite a while now. But on December 13th, there will be training to be part of Justice for Our Neighbors, a legal clinic for our immigrant neighbors. Will you be part of that? All of these things call you into the parade. How is it that God is asking you to come and step forward? How do you hear the voices of those who went before you asking you to be something and become something? It sometimes takes courage to do that. I saw this amazing little video this week about some courageous people in Peru. And by the way, that's another way you can join the parade. We'll be going to Peru in a year. We'd love to have you come with us. It'll be the end of next June, beginning of July. We'd love to have you be there in that parade. But these were ladies who were some of the most gorgeous of Peru. They were the beauty pageant contestants at the Miss Peru pageant. And they stepped up to the microphone and they were supposed to introduce themselves. They were supposed to say, this is who I am, this is where I'm from, and these are my measurements. That was the tradition. Here are who I am, where I'm from, here's my measurements. And these amazingly courageous women did this. My name is Camila Canicova, and I represent the Department of Lima. My measurements are 2,202 cases of femicide reported in the last 9 years in my country. My name is Melinda Machuca. I represent the Department of Cajamarca, and my measurements are more than 80% of women in my city suffer from violence. My name is Luciana Fernandez, and I represent the city of Huánuco, and my measurements are 13,000 girls suffer sexual abuse in our country. And one after another, they had the courage to stand up and be a voice, to be able to say, we're taking this parade in a different direction. We're not just going to go where you think it ought to go. We're going to go where it ought to go. And isn't that an amazing thing? Isn't that great organized chaos? Because it takes us somewhere else and helps us to visualize something else, something beyond. But that's what St. Francis has always done, hasn't it? How many have felt your heart called beyond what you were before because of what somebody said up here? Because of how somebody spoke into your heart and said, come join me in this thing. Come be part of this. Come, let your life join the celebration of beyond, of different. So as Washington tries to dismantle the good in our country for their own profits, choose to believe that there's a better future available for all of us. In a time of wedding bakers trying to make the Supreme Court justify their prejudice, stand up for love and be some other voice for this world. When our government tries to criminalize children who were carried across our border, tell them that that's not true, that this love extends throughout this world, not just here. Barbara Streisand in the movie Hello, Dolly sang this song that ends with these words. When whistles blow and the cymbals clash and the sparklers light the sky, I'm going to raise the roof. I'm going to carry on. Give me an old trombone, give me an old baton before the parade passes by. The parade is passing by. What are you going to pick up? Maybe it's that old trombone that you get to relearn how to use. Maybe it's the baton that you have to practice how to turn it some more. What is it that God has placed into your heart, and how are you going to be part of this parade of life?
I'm recording.
St. Francis has been one of the most amazing parades for 50 years.
What are you doing?
For the last month, we've been celebrating all the things that those dead have passed on to us, that they have given to us and trusted into our lives. And there's been a lot of things that have happened. But they leave the question for us, what are we going to be? How is the parade calling out to our hearts? What else can we, should we, ought we to be? For there's a lot of work to be done. Work at which St. Francis excels. So if you love the dream that is St. Francis, join the parade. For it takes your money to continue to empower that. It takes your effort to continue to give strength to it. It takes your vision to be able to make that parade continue to be the joyous celebration it is. Come, join St. Francis. Join the parade. Be part of this celebration. Amen?
Amen.